And so we return back to Maya to set up the materials. Now, previously I placed a bunch of blends on these, but I don't want to use blends. I want to use Arnold's standard surface. So I'm going to be changing these from blends to the correct material. All right, so go to my material attributes. Apparently, it got converted to a Phong at some point. All right, I exported this and re-imported into a fresh scene, so it changed from blend to a Phong. Doesn't really matter what it was. What it's going to be is AI standard surface. Of course, that resets the name, so I have to go up here and type back in central armor or whatever it was I called it, and base color, central armor base color. I want to see what it looks like. Yeah, doesn't show up. Just press 6. Metalness, and you'll notice this is a number, not a color. So there's a couple of changes I have to make once I assign this. Metalness, I need to change the color space to raw and turn on alpha's luminance under the color balance. Otherwise, it won't render properly. Let's see here. Roughness. Roughness. And roughness is also a number, not a color, so I gotta change it to raw, alpha's luminance. Geometry, bump mapping. And I'm going to use tangent space, normals, and set this to raw as well. It's already using that. Now, the thing about metal is it does not have color by itself. Metal only shows up as the color of the reflections and how you tinge those based on the base color. So if I want to actually see anything here, I need to give it an environment to reflect. So I'm going to go to Arnold, Lights, Sky Dome Light, and the color file. And I'm going to assign the Tropical Beach HDRI I got right here. You've seen my previous video on the praying mantis nun. You've probably seen this before. I like using this Tropical Beach because it's got bright lighting as well as dark, so it's got some contrast. And also, I don't get out much, so it's kind of nice to take my models to the beach sometimes. And to see this actually light up the scene, press 7 for fake lighting. And there it is. Now it looks closer to what it should. All right, move on to the next bit. Limbs armor, change this one. AI standard surface, there it is. Limbs armor. Metalness. Raw. Alpha's luminance. Roughness. Bump mapping, turn this to normal. Going on to the fabric now. Oh, forgot to change the name back. Yep. Now, the only difference between this one and the previous one is this one's got opacity. I want to add that in too. But opacity is a color, not a number, so I don't have to worry about changing any of the settings. Let's check to make sure it's actually working. I'll hit Arnold render. It is currently converting all those PNGs to .tx files. That is the file format the Arnold rendering engine uses. So I have to convert them first, and then I can start actually rendering it. There we go. You can see through it here, and you can see through that there. Good. Convert this one. See all these extra TXs? As soon as it converted, it's got all of them in here. Don't worry, my PNGs are still there, so I can just find it easily enough. There's not any metalness at all on this one, so I don't even need to assign that. If I look at the metalness, see it's solid black. Unnecessary. Now I made an opacity map for the eyes, and I could use that, Or I could try using a transmission instead and see how that looks. Opacity is just cutting it out, making it completely see-through. Transmission is not cutting out, it is making it transparent like glass or some other transparent material. But it works opposite of opacity. Opacity is measuring how opaque it is. So the brighter it is, the more opaque it is. The darker it is, the less opaque it is. It should become completely invisible, it's just not showing up this at the moment. Back to my Snail. Turn that back on again. Transmission, on the other hand, measures how transmissive it is, how transparent it is. So the more I bring this up, the more glass-like it gets. I have not tried this, but I want to see what happens if I put transmission on this. At least my transmission map with a faint bit of transmissive on this. But I need to invert my opacity map first. So I'll, into Photoshop, I'll Control I and File, Save As. And it's no longer opacity, this is transmission. Transmissive. And let's see what happens if I put that into my weight for my transmissive. And I need to turn this into a raw alpha luminance. And you may notice when it uses transmissive, the display gets a bit wonky. My eyes are popping in and out of view. That has to do with the renderer viewport 2.0, transparency algorithm object sorting. I'm going to change the depth peeling, and that's slightly more accurate. There we go. So what happens if I render this with my transmission on there? You can just barely see the black spheres inside the eye stalks. I kind of like that. Makes it a little bit translucent. Part of this is that it's refracting it, so it's making it a lot larger. I don't really need this to refract it. So I got my index refraction right here. I'm going to try reducing that. That's a little bit more one-to-one. Yeah, now they look like the eyeballs are stuck in jelly. Another thing I like to do with this is I would like to make this fleshy part of the model look more like skin. And to do that, I need to use subsurface scattering. So if I were to increase this, and the surface color, I need to make that basically the same as the skin that I've got on there already. So I'll just put the same picture I've got for my base color, snail base color, there it is. The radius right here tends to work better. This color is sort of a orangey red. You'll see how that looks. And technically, I think I can actually turn off my weight for the base right here entirely. We'll do a quick test to see what the differences are. So if I hit the little camera icon right here, this is what it looks like with subsurface turned on. I turn my weight for the color back on and my subsurface off. Let that render. See, there is a difference, but it's kind of hard to see because it's so speckled. I'm going to save this one again, turn my subsurface back on, and go to my render settings, clapper board with the gear on it, Arnold renderer. I'm going to increase my subsurface scattering sampling. So it's right here. Let's try doubling that and see what happens. It'll take longer to render, but it shouldn't be as spotty as it was. You can see how speckledy that was. Now I compare. You can see it's got a bit more life to it. What's happening is light is passing through the surface rather than just bouncing off the top, like it was actual skin. I'm gonna increase this a little more, try 5. Now light is bleeding through it and bouncing back out again as well, so it just sort of lightens it up while making it look a bit more translucent like skin or wax, without being see-through like it is up here. Now, the shell probably shouldn't look exactly the same as the skin. So what I might do is make a map that'll control the weight right here so this will no longer be affected by it. So I'm going to select all of my snail parts. Go to UV planar. Oh crap, I hit the wrong button. UV editor. There that is. This will be the shell right there. Everything else, I might also mask out the eyeballs. Don't need to be subsurface scattering on those. So I hit my button right here. Make sure this is going to my images folder. UV. Back into Photoshop. Find that file. My images folder. I didn't actually tell it to do it. Apply and close. I did have all the rest of the settings right. Yeah, that should be good. Control I to invert so I can actually see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to make a new layer. Use my pencil tool. Basically outline everywhere where the snail shell is. Doesn't matter if I'm painting outside. In fact, it's better to paint outside the edges so you get some bleed. When Maya renders it, it blurs the edges a little bit, and you don't want to bring the white background in with it. And here are the eyeballs right there. Let's paint over those. Paint bucket that in. Should be easier if I just flatten this. Oops. There we go. This is my source images. Snail. Subsurface. And I'll make this into PNG just so it's better quality. And I'll put this into the weight. There it is. And I'll even put it into this weight up here, but I'll invert it so I can swap back and forth between them. Go to effects and invert. Now it's being turned on here and here, so the original color will show up. There we go. And after that, it's mostly just a matter of fine-tuning the scale of the subsurface, get the look I want. If I get somewhere the sun is shining through from the other side. See, that was if I adjust my scale of this, it allows more light to go through it. Makes it look slightly more translucent when you compare. See that? I kind of like that. It's still being shadowed by these objects right here. They're not letting the light through it because they're getting in the way. But that's getting through these thin bits right here pretty easily. I kind of like that. Oh, 5, so it's easier. What's the difference between these two, I wonder? I'll let it render and see which one I like better, or if it even makes any difference. I think this one you can kind of see the eyeball shadowing a bit better with the random walk version too. I want that. Of course, if I want to render out a nice clean view of him, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the visibility of the background, put a plane underneath them. And before I forget, I meant to drag all of them up just a tiny bit. So I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to group that, put this at the bottom of his foot, set that up on top of the plane. There we go. I'm going to turn this into a shadow matte. So it'll just be him and his shadow. This doesn't need a wide screen. I could probably just make this portrait style. It's really hard to see this box all the way as long as it's so tall. There we go. Interesting how it actually looks darker without that. Oh, I know why. It's because this is casting a shadow. Cast shadow. That's better. Oof. Yeah, it's really grainy. I'd probably want to fix that before doing anything serious with this. Yeah, a little basic turnaround for them. All right. Next video, I'll worry about bringing this into mix mode to start the rigging process.